Welcome to another episode of the Terry and Frank Show. This week, we're going to be talking about the ticking time bomb as promised. This is certainly one of the very unproductive personality types. Some people hit the edge, they hit the limit, you run into them. Fortunately, they're not a common personality in the workplace. Next week, we're going to talk about somebody more common, the please don't bother me personality. I think that'll be fun because I've seen plenty of them, I must say.
Yes,
Terry, you've run into ticking time bombs. Let's talk
yeah,
about it.
yes, I have. We're talking about those people that are just explosive. It seems
Mhm.
like the smallest thing just sets off the biggest response. And I've been in situations where there's just yelling and cussing, and the person is just making a scene in the
Yeah,
middle of the office or wherever they are. We've also seen these people out in public, in Walmart and any other
yeah,
place where there's
they
just really
exist.
no lever to say, maybe I should not go this far with my response.
Mhm.
And, people get angry, we get upset, things bother us, but people that have high EQ know how to manage their emotions. So
Yeah.
even though I'm angry, that doesn't give me the right or the license to just start yelling and screaming at people like they're dumb or they're children or, like they're just somebody that we can stomp all over. Like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just not acceptable behavior. But we've all seen it. We've seen people that are just explosive and it seems to come out of nowhere.
I've seen leadership team members like that too, who, any problem comes to them is like, what the hell is this? Blah, blah, blah. And fortunately, most of them, I think, are being pushed out of companies these days. They're few and fewer around. I think that's very positive. But that was more common years ago, ticking time bomb leaders. I've run into quite a few ticking time bombs over many years. There aren't many around in companies, but they're there. And if you're a good leader, you can often see that, they're like the spring that's getting wound too tight. Their behavior starts to change in little ways, and then something pushes them over the edge and they go off.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've run into them in, one on one. And I've run into these people where you walk in on them and they're like, "What the hell are you doing here?" Whatever happens. And my reaction always was to try to take it down a notch and say,
Right.
"Oh, hey, this isn't a good time. You know, let me
Right.
know if you'd like me to come back." And
Right.
I found by lowering the response instead of raising it, you would cause a positive reaction in them.
Right. You want to de-escalate the situation as quickly as possible. So
Yes.
when you're dealing with somebody that is now at an explosive state, they're at a state of mind where their logical, rational mind is no longer in control. They are completely at the will of their emotions.
Mhm.
And that's when you find people just saying things that later they come back and say, I want to apologize. I went too
Yep.
far. I said the wrong thing. I didn't mean that. You get those kind of statements when
Mhm.
you're in a state where your logical, rational mind is not in control. And so the first thing you want to do is de escalate that situation. You don't want to match yelling with yelling because that's just going to make it worse. So you do want to lower your voice, lower your tone, even if you may feel offended by what the person is saying
Mhm.
to you.
You
You
have
may be
to.
bothered.
Yeah, you have to lower it.
You have to de-escalate and lower your voice, lower the tone. Don't match where they are because then it's just going to be a fire.
Yeah, and if you don't match where they are and you lower it and you give them a chance to apologize or ask him for an apology and you say, "Hmm, let me know if there's a better time to do this. I'll come back." "Oh, no, no, no. Listen, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to blow up." Sometimes they'll de-escalate right there on their own because, you didn't escalate and take it up a notch. So they're reacting to your demeanor,
Right.
which can be
They're
very helpful. And then you might even say, if they're a valuable coworker, say, "Hey, look, you obviously got too much going on. It's too much on your plate, something at home and work. Maybe there's something I could do to lighten your burden a little. Let me know."
yeah,
Now
offer
you're
your help.
helping them.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to offer your help. A lot of times you really do just need to find out what is the root cause. So
Yeah.
you hear that a lot when there's a technology problem. But when there are people problems, you have to do the same thing. You have to
Mhm.
look for the root cause because
Gotta
sometimes
get to it.
people just have too many things going on in their personal life and it overflows into their professional life. It could be vice versa, that
Mhm.
they're spending so much time at work and they're so frustrated, they're under strict deadlines and they can't get everything finished. They feel
Yeah.
overwhelmed with work that
And
now
they're
the
getting resentment at home for not being around.
that's right.
That's
That's
right.
right. So you've got to really take some time if you really want to have a healthy culture. You got to take some time and get to know what that person and exactly what they're going through. But as a leader, you've got to own that. You've got to own each and every person that's in your organization, and you have to own making it right. So you've got to let that person know, hey, this is just not acceptable behavior. Let's talk about it. Let's see what we can do to
Yes.
help either lighten your workload or maybe even sometimes just being a listening ear if there are problems
Sometimes that
outside.
helps tremendously because
Yes,
they can vent
yes,
in an appropriate way then.
that's right. You
Some
wanna
of it
help
is just
them
venting.
have productive ways for coping with whatever they're dealing with,
Mhm.
because yelling and screaming at the end of the day is not productive. It's not gonna change things one bit,
No.
and in reality, you'll probably just piss people off and make them wanna walk away from you. They'll just
Yes.
say, "You know what? I'm not gonna deal with her like that," or, "I'm not gonna deal with him like that. I'm walking away from this situation." And they may do it gracefully and they may not. They may just start yelling right back at you and walk away. So you really do have to be aware. This is all in that self awareness category of being able to manage your own emotions so that you're not just spilling out over on people.
Yeah, without a doubt. Very important to de-escalate, very important to understand that situation that you can actually be, helpful, de-escalate the whole thing, maybe change the outcome. You find often that, you have good people who get pushed too far.
Right,
And those are people you really want to help. And then there's people who are just a real problem. They're not necessarily always a ticking time bomb, but they're always negative, and they end up kind of escalating into an even worse realm. And those are people that, maybe they're really not a good fit for the place at all. And
right.
so each situation is a little different. You got to evaluate what's happened, what led up to it, who they really are, because people hit bumpy roads. Let's face
That's
it.
that's
And
right.
you got to
Things
look at the big picture. Yeah.
Yeah. Things happen, and it's not to say that at any point in time we haven't been that person, that maybe I responded in a way that was not healthy or productive. But the key is knowing that you can recover from that, right? So if you have an outburst where you just get so frustrated, it's happened to the best of us. We've said the wrong thing. We've, said something that we wish we could take back.
Yep.
You can go back and apologize and make that situation right. But you don't want to be that person that always has to come back and apologize because you've
Hmm.
yet again said something that was just not the right response. You didn't say it in the right tone. You didn't
Hmm.
say the right words. Like it was just wrong all the way around. So you want to be able to manage your emotions in a healthy way
That's
and
right.
have
So we
some
could talk
positive.
about if you are the ticking time bomb, like
Yeah.
we're talking about how to deal with one, but if you happen to be one,
Right. Right.
now you've got to become more self-aware. You got to feel that anxiety coming on,
Right.
and you've got to understand where your triggers are, and you've got to have a coping mechanism yourself, like, counting to 5,
Hmm.
maybe, letting some energy off, gripping your hands, tightening them. But you've got to understand what that triggers and feel it coming so you can prepare and respond to it without going into that explosive state. And
Right.
people can do that. They can train themselves to feel that coming on and cope with it in a much more productive way.
That's right. Is you never want to end up where it has to get to the point where now your manager has to write you up or document that you've had all these outbursts bursts in the office and now they're going to HR to talk about, terminating your employment because you can't control your emotions. You don't want it to get that far. You want to be able to self-manage and self-correct and recognize that this is not acceptable behavior. So, what can I do to own it? And what can I do to change?
Mhm.
So, having those coping mechanisms, whether it's just taking some time and breathing, that's one of the things that I do a lot when I'm in a situation and I know that I want to say something that I probably shouldn't say. Then, sometimes just holding your hands together, being conscious of your hands and being conscious of your breath
Mhm.
will cause you to calm down first, and then you can respond in a more positive way. So I'm not just allowing whatever I think and feel to come out of my mouth. We all feel it. We all know that, this situation is, I want to have a certain response. So it's not that we don't feel it, we don't feel that way, but we learn as productive people how to have a productive response.
How to deal with it,
Right.
take a 20-minute break and go for a quick walk.
That's right. That's
Fresh
right.
air, you feel it coming on, say, "Hey, look, I gotta take a break."
That's right. You know where your limits are.
Mhm.
And if you're in a situation where you feel yourself escalating, that's a time to say, hey, let's hold this for a minute and come back to it. And you can go out, like you said, take a walk, or, sometimes just go have a cup of coffee or, have a drink of water and just sit down for a minute and think about it. Because in the big scheme of things, most of the time, what we get so bent out of shape about doesn't really matter.
No. It was the
It's
needle that broke the camel's back, that's
it's
all.
really not life or death.
Nope.
And that's what's most important. So you got to remember that a lot of times being so bent out of shape about things that are happening in the workplace, yes, the job is important. But when you look at it in the big scheme of things, it's really not that serious.
No, whatever's happening is not that serious.
That's right.
The big scheme of life, it's got magnified importance because of all the other stuff going on that's built up to that moment.
That's right. That's right.
That's what's making it feel huge.
Yeah, and we're not saying that work deadlines aren't important and that they
Not at
don't.
all.
We're not saying that at all. But when you think about what you're doing to your body from a stress perspective and being in that state where you are just in that fight or flight and
Mhm.
you're in such an emotional state where you're not calm and rational, the human body was not designed to live in that space. And
No,
so at
not at
some
all.
point your body is going to fail you because your body just can't handle that amount of stress.
Mhm.
So these are just ways for you to survive as a human, to come back and
Yeah.
recognize that, yes, these deadlines are important, but I can't sacrifice my life, my health, my mental sanity for a deadline. So let's come back and say, how can I have a healthier approach to this? There are only so many hours in the day, and there's only so many hours that I can work. So I have to get into a place where I have good, healthy rhythms where I'm taking care of myself as well as taking care of my job.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, if you fall down from a heart attack because you've been so stressed out, they're going to pack your box with your stuff from your desk and put somebody else in your desk and move on. So your family is going to be the one that has to pick up the pieces that's really going to experience that loss. So you have to really be mindful of that state that you're in, not just for the sake of being a productive employee, but just for being a productive human.
Yeah.
So your family can benefit from having you around, that you're not so stressed out all the time that you're just yelling and screaming about the smallest things.
Yeah. So let's summarize this a bit. So, in the workplace, if you are or come in contact with a ticking time bomb, the key is to learn to de-escalate.
That's
Be
right.
a force of good and helpfulness if you can to lighten that person's load. Also know who you're dealing with. If these people are generally a ticking time bomb, they may be emotionally disturbed, they may need some bigger help, and they probably shouldn't be in the workplace if they're doing it all the time. That's a leadership issue. They need to deal with that and make sure the other people are safe in the workplace. If you're a leader, be aware of people's baseline state and be looking for people who may be getting stressed out. Tell them to take a few days off. Don't let them get to that situation. Be observant. It's your job.
Right,
Prevent these things. And if you are the ticking time bomb, become more self aware, learn to manage those responses
right.
because you don't have to explode. You can learn to manage them and you can learn to deal with this in a much more effective and productive way. It'll serve you your whole life.
That's true. Very true. You
Any
want to
other
take,
closing thoughts?
yeah, you want to take time to sharpen the saw, as Stephen Covey would say.
Yes,
You
perfect.
want to most certainly take time to take care of yourself, allow your mind to calm down. I know being in the workforce, I find myself even in the middle of the night, I'll think about something that I'm working on, or some problem I've been trying to solve, or just my running to-do list. But
Yeah,
you want to take some time where you really do calm yourself down and take some time for yourself. It's not selfish to do self-care and to really
no,
focus on your own personal mental health. That is very important. Your own physical health, very important to take time to do that.
super
So,
important.
yeah,
Self care is huge.
we
People
would
aren't very
encourage
good
that.
at it.
Yes, absolutely, because that makes you more productive as a human.
Mhm.
You know, we
It
talk
really
about
does.
these unproductive personality types, but these are things that you can do to just be a better human, you know?
So, self care. Don't become the ticking time bomb. Don't be that person. And then tune in next week. We'll talk about the please don't bother me personality.
Yes,
They're different. There are a lot more of them around.
yes, yes, absolutely.
So, Tara, another great episode. Thanks. Thanks for coming on and doing another one, right?
Yes, and thank you everybody for watching. We hope you're getting
Yes.
something out of this. Please feel
Thanks
free.
for tuning in. We hope you're learning stuff and enjoying the show.
Yeah, please feel free to comment and subscribe.
Comment, subscribe, have some fun, enjoy it. Let's
Yeah.
interact.
Yes.
Arrivederci.
All right. Bye.
Bye.